two, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick. I got so thrown off. We're part of Full Press Radio. Welcome to the show today.
What's the date?
The date is August the 23rd, 2021. And Nick just sang the intro. I loved it. I just wasn't expecting it.
This is what happens when I improvise. Carl gets all flustered.
I have done virtually the same intro for this is episode 342, 344, 340 something. I've done virtually the same thing for all 340 of them. We can't start changing this now.
That's true. I apologize, Carl. I apologize for trying to breathe some life into our intro.
That's, you know what? That's on me. I should be able to not get completely rattled and get 1/4 of the intro correct. Half. I got the name of the show and I got our names right.
Yeah, you did. You just went right into your name.
Yeah. I was so impressed by you. I wanted to give you the recognition.
Impressed. Okay. That's very nice of you, Carl.
Look, we're just lucky that I didn't get so rattled I called you like Joel or something like that.
That's true. Or reversed our names.
Yeah. With you today is myself, Stevie Nick.
There you go.
We're back for another week of hockey news. We got some for the middle of August. We got some hockey news this week. Someone's moving and someone's stopping. They're quitting. So we'll talk about that this week. But first, a very important follow-up from last week's show. Last week you watched the blockbuster documentary.
I did.
And anything new this week? So
no documentaries, which I feel like now I've broken out of our groove here where we were watching and reviewing documentaries on our hockey podcast. But no, I did not watch any documentaries. I did, however, watch 3 feature films this week, which is a lot for me. Were
they a trilogy?
They were not a trilogy. They actually were the furthest thing from a trilogy. One was an independent Canadian film about a farmer in Saskatchewan. One was a horror movie about the occult and demons. And the third one was Bridesmaids.
You say that like you've clearly never been to Saskatchewan farms. So those first two are quite related.
I've never, but it was not a horror movie. It was not. It was a nice little Canadian independent film, but interestingly enough, Christopher Walken played the lead, and the supporting roles were Zach Braff and Christina Ricci.
And for like just a small little Canadian thing.
Yeah, it's about this farmer in Saskatchewan who took on Monsanto, the farming company. It was like a David versus Goliath story. And it was a cool little movie based on a true story.
I was going to say, when you just sell it as it's a story about a farmer in Saskatchewan, I was like, I know a lot of farmers in Alberta and like that seems more interesting. So it was that's like quasi document. It was like a biopic more so than
I wouldn't call it a biopic because it was about the lawsuit. So it was, I don't know if you'd call it like a historical fiction, if you can call like 1998 historical.
That's 23 years ago. Oh, I think we can.
Yikes. That's a scary thought.
Yeah. It's just a quarter of a century ago, Nick. It's fine.
And it was an interesting story, actually. The ending was a little kind of flat. I didn't love the way it ended, but I think that's kind of what happens when you try to stick too close to real life.
Is it spoiling it if you tell me how the movie ends, even though it's a news story from 23 years ago?
I don't think it's spoiling it because I'm pretty sure the movie ends exactly how the real life story ends. I did no research into it. Okay. So let me explain the concept. First of all, the movie is called Percy. In Canada, it's called Percy. I think it has a different title international. It's called like Percy versus Goliath or something. And so what happened was there was this farmer who collected his seed every year. So he was growing the same, he was growing the same crops, the strongest seeds every year.
Yeah.
And it was discovered that there was a chemical that Monsanto, whatever that company's name is, sold to ensure that certain crops didn't die from pesticide use or chemicals or anything like that. They found it in his crop, which he had never used it before because he collects his own seeds and farms his own crops.
Right.
So they went after him for using a patented farming technology, basically. Mm-hmm. And he had never purchased it. He had never bought it. The theory was either that Monsanto planted it on his farm just to sue him, which I don't think really made sense. But the other one was that the neighboring farm was using it and the wind blew it over onto his side. So they sued him for it and he lost his lawsuit. He lost his appeal and went to the Supreme Court of Canada and it was overturned. But the way that it ends is that he doesn't have to pay the damages they were suing him for, and he doesn't have to pay any legal fees, but he had to turn over all of his crops.
So he's still done.
So he's still like, his farm is still done, but he was in the hole for like several millions of dollars worth of damages and legal fees.
Right. Well, I mean, so an neither happy nor terribly sad ending.
I think from like a plot perspective, it solved the plot. I don't know. There wasn't a ton of emotion in the ending for me from a character perspective. So
right. Well, I watched a movie this week that had a lot of character development and did have a happy ending.
Ooh, do tell.
It's actually a movie that I've been wanting. I probably watched things in the wrong order. But the movie I watched this week was Chef with Jon Favreau. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I've seen things about it. What is that movie about? From the random clips I've seen, I can't figure out what it's about.
Okay, so Jon Favreau is a chef who gets fired, quits. He has a butting of heads with the owner of his restaurant and leaves. And like part of it, in the middle of it, he also gets into a fight with a reviewer, like a food blogger that reviews his restaurant. He gets into a big public fight and like just melts down and goes like a viral video of him losing his mind on this guy in the restaurant. So he goes, hides, starts a food truck in Miami with his best friend and his like 10-year-old son. And they start this food truck and kind of like he revitalizes his career through the discovery of this like Cuban sandwich food truck. And then they drive across from Miami back to LA where he's from. And it's like the summer of them building this food truck and traveling the country.
Interesting. See, when I first heard about this movie, I thought it was like a reality TV series of actually like Jon Favreau traveling the country, making food and learning about food. I didn't realize it was like an actual film.
So there's two. So what I watched first is Chef Show, which is him and Roy Chang, who worked on this movie with him, who is a chef, who the movie's like loosely based on. And so they do this and they go and they travel the country and they meet with chefs and they learn from them and they cook the food and they do this. So that's the reality show part of it. But then that show came after this movie.
Interesting. Was the movie good? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was like, it was funny. I love cooking. And so like just seeing that side of it and the creativity that he like was working through expressing was, I thought was like, using the word inspirational seems like a little heavy handed, but like, I thought it was inspirational. And then just to see this like guy connecting with his kid, and it was a good movie.
Oh, interesting. The one clip I saw from it, this was like, I don't know, a month ago or something. It was the clip where he was making the grilled cheese sandwich. And boy, did that make me hungry. Yeah, that looked like a really good grilled cheese sandwich.
There's like 4 different kinds of cheese on that. And did you see, I mean, how do you make a grilled cheese?
I just slap butter on the backside of bread, and it depends. If I have shredded cheese already, I'll make it with shredded cheese. If I don't have shredded cheese, I'll just cut the cheddar and lay it down on the bread.
Okay. How many slices are you going? Like, how thick are the cheese? Do you do multiple slices? Just one?
Normally just one, but thick slices.
Okay. Yeah. Cause on this, so what he did, I'm similar. I cook mine in a cast iron, and instead of buttering the bread, I just melt the butter in the pan and then put the sandwich in.
Oh, nice.
And I found that gets like a little bit better results than what I think maybe the switch to the cast iron too. But yeah, same thing. I maybe use like 2 layers of cheese for it, nothing too crazy. But for this, he cooks them both. So he has like multiple layers of different kinds of cheese, and he cooks the 2 pieces open faced.
Yeah.
And then combines them afterwards and then lets that go. That was interesting.
Yeah. He had an interesting technique. And I was like, oh, I should try it. Because the way he lays the bread down and then uses his hands to kind of move it around.
Yeah.
I was like, I should try that. And then I realized I didn't just have like a countertop that was a stove surface.
Yeah,
like I don't have room for that.
No, you don't have a big griddle in the middle of your kitchen?
No.
Weird. Yeah, that was a good looking grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah. I'm assuming there was food like that all throughout the movie.
Oh, I mean, he did this food truck, and each city he went to. So like he started in Miami and made Cuban sandwiches. He went to New Orleans and did like po' boys in New Orleans, and just like each city they did a different take on the local food. And
don't watch it on an empty stomach.
In Austin, he did like he got a brisket from one of the barbecue guys, which I thought, I mean, as a guy that likes barbecue, and like they got the actual chef who cooks the brisket in the movie. So Aaron Franklin was in the movie. I thought that was cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely did that, and then smoked a bunch of steaks and queso on Sunday. So
of course you did.
Of course. I mean, you can't watch that movie and then not want to go make delicious food.
Well, I'm gonna add it to my list.
I would highly recommend it. Yeah, it was good. Maybe not highly. I would recommend it. Awesome. Bridesmaids. We overpassed Bridesmaids.
Okay, so yeah, last night we watched Bridesmaids. This is because my wife, just out of the blue, she's like, I think I want to watch Bridesmaids tonight. Some things you got to understand, okay? First of all, she never wants to watch movies with me. I normally watch them by myself, or she'll start on the couch, she'll be on her phone for a half hour, and then she'll go upstairs. Second of all, if we do decide to sit down and watch a movie, she will not pick one. She'll not even say yes to my suggestions. She's like, you figure it out. And if she doesn't like it, she leaves. So for her to say, A, I want to watch a movie, and B, I know the movie I want to watch. It was in my head before she even said the name. I was like, great, I'm in. Whatever it is, we'll sit down and watch it. And for some reason, she wanted to watch Bridesmaids. So that's why we sat down and watched. And I haven't seen that movie in years. And it is hilarious.
So I think I only watched it when it like first came out. I haven't watched it since then.
It holds up. I'm trying to think back to some of the jokes now, but they all hold up. Nothing is outdated. The performances are so good, especially that Melissa McCarthy, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
This was like her like coming out movie into being the funniest woman in Hollywood for a while. And she earned that. Like, she's so good in that movie.
She was very good. I mean, they all were. They were like,
all amazing.
All the ladies in that movie were super good.
Yes. And the fun part is when it ended, we decided to count how many men had lines in that movie. I think we counted 6 total.
Well, there's John Hamm.
Yeah.
There's the guy from the IT Crowd who was the cop. I think he was the cop.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Man, good memory for having seen this once when it came out.
That's all I got.
Those are the 2 kind of main men characters. And then there was the air marshal on the plane.
Right. Yes.
And then there was the flight attendant when Kristen Wiig mixes the pills and the alcohol. And he kicks her out of first class, so she comes back in the other row with sunglasses on.
But that's good, right? Because it's not like it's a movie. It's about bridesmaids. It should just be about them.
Yeah, and it was so good, and they were all so good. It's such a funny movie. Every joke hits. It's I loved it. I loved it. It was the best movie that I watched this week.
Well, there you go. So, would you rank them that, then Percy, then whatever that horror flick you watched was?
Yeah, I liked the horror movie, but I find what I find with horror movies is I really like the buildup of like the mystery and creepiness, and then when the plot unfolds and they tell you what's actually happening, it all falls apart for me. As soon as it gets to supernatural, occult, like demons kind of thing, I'm like, I'm pulled out of this. I can't anymore.
See, and for me, I don't personally I don't like horror movies. I don't like to be scared. And so when I watch them, like if I'm with a group of friends and they're like, hey, we're watching this movie, I will just look up the plot synopsis and just follow along so I don't get scared. So I will never watch one in theaters, for sure. No. But even like at home, I'll just be like on my phone. I'll be like, all right, now what's going to happen next? And that way I know. And it's not scary.
That's so funny. No, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm always so like far enough away from the movie that I'm like, this is just a movie. I went and saw it in theaters by myself with just a crowded theater. So I wasn't with any friends or anything.
Yeah.
And it was like the best. It was one of the best movie going experiences.
Really?
People were crazy. Especially like if it's a horror movie, people will just go and scream whether it's actually scary or not.
Right. Because they've worked themselves up. Just the idea of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was fun. Watching it by myself is less fun. Again, if it's like really interesting and there's enough mystery, I'll be pulled in. But as soon as, the reveals come that it's, whatever, some demon or something, that's where I get pulled out of it.
Well, I mean, we got a really interesting reveal this week. The city of Glendale, Arizona revealed that they were not renewing the lease for the Arizona Coyotes to stay in that location, meaning that we now have a reopening of the Coyotes Arena saga.
Ooh, this is Gary Bettman's own personal horror movie.
This is scary. And there's no plot synopsis for you to look up, Gary. It's just, you just got to ride this one out.
It's writing itself right now. Brutal, man. What are they going to do?
Well, so the city said that for this coming season that the Coyotes are not going to be in there. So they've now begun to look. And the Coyotes and Gary Bettman both said that they're looking at the potential of staying in Glendale in the arena. So this sounds like almost like every single time now that this comes up, that the Coyotes don't have an arena in Glendale anymore, that it literally is just going to be renegotiated with the city and they're going to stay.
It's very possible. It could just be a negotiating tactic, right? Although the release that the city made is kind of a, let me just read it out because it made me laugh. With an increased focus on larger, more impactful events and uses of the city-owned arena, the city of Glendale has chosen not to renew the operating agreement for the Arizona Coyotes. So they're essentially saying that the Arizona Coyotes are not considered to be a large, impactful event.
That's what I loved about that. And I think I misspoke and said that this coming season they weren't in the arena. It's after this season.
It's after the season, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting way for them to word it. Just like the most backhanded way. You don't bring it up. This isn't impactful for us. We could definitely, those like 41 nights a year you're using the arena, we could do something better with it.
Hey, you know what all the NHL fans say about our hockey team? It's all true.
Yeah. Everyone makes fun of no one coming to games here. Turns out no one comes to games here. That's not entirely true though, because we saw, when Arizona puts out a winning team, people in that city do show up.
For sure.
And so we've seen even, leading up to COVID, I believe we saw as they were, got Taylor Hall, and people were showing up in Arizona. They just need to put a good product out there,
which they don't have right now.
No, and
they're not going to have this year, and they're probably not going to have next year either.
And I don't fully know if this group running the team is the ones who can do that, even though they just these ones just showed up and they're like the mop-up team. So maybe give them a chance. But
do you think that in 10 years from now, we'll be talking about the movie we watched about the Arizona Coyotes saga and the 20 years they tried to get this team going?
I can see that. Jonah Hill plays Gary Bettman.
Oh my God. I could see it already with the yellow light at his kitchen table.
It's all just filmed from everyone's iPhone 15s.
But really, how is this going to end? How long can they go through this over and over? It's the same things over and over and over again.
Well, so here's part of it is because not just the that statement from the arena, but they also released this statement, which said, according to a July 29th letter sent on behalf of Phelps, just being someone with the team, to the organization titled Coyotes Past Due, they informed the Coyotes that they owed $1.4 million to the arena. In the letter obtained via public records request filed earlier this month, Phelps said that more than $300,000 of that amount is over 4 months delinquent. That letter also communicated previous late payments and forgiven debts from the prior season. So this is why it's not impactful for the city, because they are literally losing money, owed $1.4 million from this team. Yeah, I understand why. If the team's not paying their bills, I understand why they want them gone.
But wasn't the change in ownership supposed to fix all these financial issues?
You would think, but you need people through the doors to be able to fix financial issues.
Yeah, fair point. And they're not doing that right now. But they're not going to in the short term either, based on the product they're putting on the ice.
No, it's not going to anytime soon. Now, Gary Bettman does think that they will likely stay there. I would say, the city most likely wanting an NHL team that doesn't is Quebec City. But I'm not sure that the NHL is really thrilled at the idea of pulling a team from Arizona and moving it to Quebec.
From the summer desert to the winter desert.
Exactly.
I don't think the Arizona Coyotes are going to be in Arizona in 10 years' time. But for as long as Gary Bettman is the commissioner of this league, I can't see them going anywhere. He's too committed to the team. For whatever reason, this specific team, he will not give up on.
Atlanta, easily.
Easy. Yeah, it didn't take much for Atlanta.
It's like, oh, you've got high money people who will move it to a different city? Sure. Yes, please. Thank you.
But this team, he cannot look away from. It's very strange.
It is. And so we'll see. They're looking at options in that arena, or in that area, sorry. It doesn't sound like relocation outside of the Phoenix area is on the table as of yet. But certainly something that we'll be paying attention to as we get into the rest of this season, because they've got a year to figure it out.
Well, they're going to get, in the next few years, they're going to get an all-star game. They're probably going to get a draft.
Yeah.
Whatever's going to get a bunch of people there, they will get.
Yeah, they'll make sure that it happens.
World Cup of Hockey, Arizona.
That's not a bad idea. Host Grant, what they did Toronto, Montreal last time?
Did they do both cities? They definitely did Toronto. So. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So now you host half of it in Vegas, half of it in Phoenix.
The players would love that.
Right? The teams that are stuck in Phoenix are going to love it a lot less, but the teams in Vegas are going to love it.
Well, you just got to swap them. every few days they get burned out from being in Vegas. They go rest up in Arizona.
They've got to go have some rest. The off days. It's just practice rinks in Arizona. The actual games are played there.
Exactly.
Well, we also had Henrik Lundqvist last year signed with the Washington Capitals and then announced that he was had heart surgery. It was having to deal with recovering from that. This time, officially announced his retiring, playing his entire career, even though he signed with the Capitals, playing his entire career with the New York Rangers. One of the best of this generation of goaltenders, if not the best.
Probably all time, he deserves some recognition.
Oh, well, I'm definitely recognition, but like, where do you put him? Like, Hall of Fame?
Yes, this was a conversation that I've been mentally preparing to have all day. He's a Hall of Fame candidate for sure. Should be first ballot.
But like, without the Stanley Cups, he's still in there for you.
He has everything else. He's got gold medals. He's got the individual awards. He's got a Vezina trophy. He's got, what else did he have here? Well, he's got a Vezina trophy.
I mean, that Vezina trophy is pretty good.
But he was a Hart finalist one year.
Yeah.
You know, he's an all-star. He's got everything except for the Stanley Cup.
Yes. I'm going to go to one of my favorite sources for great information, thefourthlinepodcast.com, because I know that Joe wrote an article this week listing off all of his accolades. So let me give you, he is 6th all-time in wins, 10th all-time in shutouts. He was 6-2 in game 7s in the playoffs. He had 27 career points. It's pretty good for a goalie. 5-time All-Star, Vezina, gold medal, silver medal, and also a gold and 2 silvers at the World Championships. That's a good list.
It's a strong resume. And if you I'm looking at the top 10 goalies and wins of all time. He has the second best save percentage among those goalies.
And who else is on that list of wins? Like we got Waugh,
so we got Brodeur. Martin Brodeur is number 1, Patrick Waugh. Then you got Marc-Andre Fleury, Luongo, Belfour. That's your top 5. And then you got Lundqvist. Then Curtis Joseph. He's way higher on that list than I thought he was. Terry Sawchuk, Jacques Plante, and Tony Esposito. There's your top 10.
It's wild to me. I mean, so Ed Belfour being 5th on that list definitely gives me pause, because I look at that and I'm like, I argued against Ed Belfour being a Hall of Famer at the time, but I definitely think that Henrik Lundqvist is.
I mean, Ed Belfour, I think he played with some very good teams. Like, I'm looking at these save percentages now. He has the worst save percentage among the goalies in the top 10.
Well, he only led the league in save percentage twice in his entire career. Now, granted, there was like 2 years he had under a 2.0 goal against average, which is great.
Yeah, that's very good. He was a good goalie in his prime. We tend to remember the later years of Ed Belfour, I think. But, you know, he was very good in the early days. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yes, he is a Hall of Famer. I mean,
he's in there.
If you look him up, he is a 5-time All-Star. He's a 2-time Vezina.
He has a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Was he with Dallas? He won the Cup?
Yeah. Again, the foot in the crease. So, okay. So I think we both agree Lundqvist, Hall of Fame. Of the goalies that are there right now, like goalies that are in the league at this time, do you think that any goaltender in the league today, including Marc-Andre Fleury, who's ahead of Lundqvist on this list, will end up being regarded as better than him?
Probably Marc-Andre Fleury.
When you look back on Fleury's career,
he has that extra thing that Lundqvist doesn't, and he's got several of them.
Yeah. Even though some of his awards are disputed by certain members of teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning and Nikita Kucherov, to be specific. Because up until this year, right, Marc-Andre Fleury won the Vezina this year. Up until this point, had not won one. And I agree with Kucherov that it shouldn't have been Fleury who won it this year.
Yeah.
And so I look at it and I say, okay, you've won 3 Stanley Cups. You've never won a Vezina. You've never even been awarded as the best goaltender that year in the league. I look at Marc-Andre Fleury. I think Lundqvist is better at his best over his longevity. Lundqvist was a better goalie.
I'd listen to that argument. I don't know if I'm ready to accept it. I think Lundqvist was a far more consistent goalie. Like Fleury's, I find, is a lot more scary to watch. Like he's just absolutely all over the place.
Yeah.
Lundqvist had a calmness about him that you could trust when he was in net.
Well, and that is part of the reason why I think in a shortened season like this, Marc-Andre Fleury could ride the highs and work his way to a Vezina, right? A shortened season. He played 36 games this season. It started only 36. Certainly not what a normal Vezina season would require.
Oh, that's wild that he won the Vezina on 36 games.
Yeah, with the shortened season and all that. And
yeah, it makes sense.
Robin Lehner being there, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, let us take a break right there. We'll be back on the other side. We're going to take a look at some more. We're going to dive into some more teams on the other side of this. A 1, a 2, a 3.
Was that like Dracula or something?
It was the Count from Sesame Street. Yes.
A 3. This is very good.
Thank you. See, it's not so easy to hold it together when your co-host just throws something at you for their intro, is it, Nick?
I thought you were actually going to copy me, so I was ready to drop a beat after you counted in. That's why I was so thrown off. I prepared for something else. But if you're going to do the Muppets, you got to get the hands in it.
Next time. It's an audio podcast, so no one would have known anyways.
I would have known, Carl. Would have known.
Maybe I'll do that one again. Maybe I'll spend this entire rest of the week brainstorming different ways to count to 3. And listeners, if you have any ideas, send them to me because I could use all the help I can get.
Help Carl catch me off guard again.
Well, Nick, we're back. Last week we dove into 2 teams that we thought had made their teams worse this offseason. And this week we're going to turn the tables and look at 2 teams that we think have made themselves better this offseason. So kind of dive into some of those moves that they made, why we think that they're better this year than they were last year, and go from there. Now, I was able to kind of pick quite easily, but you had a bit of a harder time choosing who your top team of choice was. Is that right?
I did. I found it much harder. Like when teams have the 2 teams we talked about last week, there were several things that they did that amounted to them being, the worst, having the worst off seasons. When it comes to the best,
sorry to interrupt. If you didn't listen last week, go back. We talked about the Hurricanes and the Golden Knights last week.
That's right.
So we dove into them.
But when you're talking about the best, it's not very often a team goes out and makes a bunch of trades and acquires a bunch of free agents to really, take them to another level. That stuff takes time. That stuff spans across multiple seasons. But you identified a team that was a very good pick that did it this year.
Yeah, I think, again, they made a big splash in free agency. They also had a very high choice in the draft. And so I went with the New Jersey Devils as my team that I thought has improved the most this year. And I'm going to sit here and say this, but I'm also not even sure that they've improved enough that they're like a bona fide playoff team. Much to your point, right? This is something that takes time and progresses over many years. It's not that you're going to take a big jump and do this like we thought with the Panthers of a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take time and it's going to happen over a couple of seasons, but the Devils made moves that do affect the now. That really, it's going to shorten the amount of time that it takes for them to be contenders, in my opinion. So do you want to go through quickly? We'll come back to are they a playoff team or not, but let's go through what those moves were.
Well, so the big one that they made, the signing of Dougie Hamilton to the $9 million per year contract, huge addition for them. And what I like particularly about this is, one, they're really taking advantage of their current cap situation, right? They have a lot of young players still on entry level deals, right? Like they have Nico Hischier is signed to his, extension. Jack Hughes is still on his rookie deal. Obviously, Luke Hughes, who they just drafted, going to be on a rookie deal. Lots of guys on this team making a very small amount of money. So they take advantage of that. But also, they sign him to the exact same cap hit that they are going to be losing off the books next year when PK Subban's contract is gone. And the fact that they're able to hot swap in, you have essentially both of them this year and then say, all right, well, we have to pay Quinn Hughes next year, but we lose that Subban deal. Subban's gone, or we re-sign him at a lesser amount and have Dougie Hamilton to replace that. Hamilton is a much better defender than PK is. And I love the way that they've made this lineup.
It's very good cap management.
For sure.
Right? Like I hadn't even really thought of it in those terms, but you're right. Like just swapping out those players for the same amount of money, that's a huge win. Do you think, I mean, in the context of Subban's also getting paid $9 million, I think this answer is easy, but is that a good deal for Dougie Hamilton?
I think, for the team, yes. When you look at every other defender that got paid more than that this year, right? Like you look at, Cale Makar got 6 by 9, right? And
yeah,
that's less. And Cale's a Norris finalist. You look at, Darnell Nurse got more money than that to stay in Edmonton. And that's to stay, not even on an open market. That is just to stay right where he is. And for Dougie to be on the open market and to get 7 by 9, I think shows that, one, he really wanted to be in New Jersey, and two, great. He got paid, right? He could have gotten 10 probably, maybe somewhere else, but it's not like he's working for free. But I think a great deal.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really good deal for Hamilton, especially in light of the other defenseman signings that we saw in the offseason. This is a really good get for New Jersey and a really big loss for Carolina.
Absolutely. That was a big thing last week, right? And it is fitting that, and actually we'll get to this when we get to yours, but it's fitting that the team that was their big loser last week, the guy they lost is on the big winner this week.
Yeah. It is very fitting.
So
that's good podcast management, Carl.
You know what? We should have planned it like this. And so not just that, they also made like some more minor additions as well. One of them that I think I really like, and I know that you've had some history with this individual in the past, Tomas Tatar, 2 years, $4.5 million to this team. A guy that for some odd reason was benched through Montreal's playoff run. A guy that they just decided, we don't want him out there. He's not going to help our team. He is absolutely still a contributing member on NHL rosters, and I think is going to be a great addition to this team this year.
Yeah, I think the cap hit's a little high, but over 2 years, like it's a short-term deal. I'm fine with it. And Tatar is a great contributor at 5-on-5. So I know other fans of other teams teams other than the teams that Tatar plays on, they don't really see him because he doesn't get a lot of time in the playoffs. He was scratched this year with Montreal. He was scratched last year. Was he with Montreal or Vegas? I can't remember. Anyways, but he's a huge contributor during the regular season, and has very, very strong 5-on-5 stats. So I think it's a really good addition. Capit's a little high, but on this team, who cares?
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is because now while they've added those pieces, and again, I mentioned, the high pick of Luke Hughes this year, pairing up the Hughes brothers, which if they don't dress as the Blues Brothers for Halloween this year, I don't even know what we're doing.
They probably do it every year. Everyone they know is probably sick of it. Oh, not again. They're too young for the Blues Brothers anyways.
But now here's the thing, because before they always had to have like 3 brother costumes, and now they can just completely ignore that Quinn Hughes even exists. It's just Jack and Luke. Doesn't matter. Now they can have the 2 brother costumes they've always really wanted.
That's hilarious. At least they're going to get to play their brother this year.
That's true.
Siblings didn't get to play each other last year.
Did any sibling get to play each other last year?
What other pairings are there in the league?
We got the Stalls.
Jordan and Eric. No, because Eric was in the Canadian division.
Yep. Well, and he was started in Minnesota.
Right.
So he wouldn't have gotten to there either.
Yeah.
What other brothers do we have still?
Jordy Ben and Jamie Ben are not brothers, right?
I think they are.
They are brothers?
I believe so. But Jordy was not in the same division.
Correct. So we didn't have any sibling. The Svechnikovs, Detroit and Carolina. Yeah, they played together against each other this year.
Did you play your Svechnikov during those games?
During one of the games. I think he played like 11 minutes.
He got some penalty kill time a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. No, I think they played against each other twice this year.
Okay. So we had one.
Yeah.
Are there any others that we're missing right now, do you think?
I feel like there's some pretty famous ones that are not jumping to the top of my head right now.
That we've neglected. Well, I'm quickly scanning this list of ones. I don't see any that are standing out to me of like currently in the league. So this might be, we might have nailed it.
All right. Well, then the Svechnikovs, congratulations.
You are the only brothers still playing in the NHL that got to play each other, but everyone else get congratulations. Now, like, I mean, I assume that, we did forget a big one. And they did play each other last year.
Who?
One's in Calgary and one's in Ottawa.
Oh, the Kachucks.
The Kachucks. And there are, two of them are now on the same team.
2 brothers are on the same team?
Yeah.
I'm missing it. I don't know. Who?
The Joneses, Caleb and Seth.
Oh, come on. That's not it. Has Caleb Jones played any NHL games?
Yes, absolutely he has.
I don't feel bad for missing that one.
We've also got, there's, I believe, according to this list that I found, there are 22 brother tandems currently in the NHL. The Subans, Malcolm is still was with the Blackhawks last year.
True.
The Nylanders, William and Alex.
Yeah.
Apparently both Shens are still in the league. Luke.
In and out of the league, you mean?
Is still doing it. The Stromes. The Tanevs and the Van Riemsdykes.
The Tanevs?
Yeah, Chris and Brandon Tanev.
Huh. Never put 2 and 2 together. To be honest with you, I thought that was the same person.
You are just as shocked as Brandon Tanev every time he takes the school picture.
The Van Riemsdykes. So one was in Carolina, the other was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so they would have played.
No,
were they in the same division?
No, they weren't.
So there you go. Anyways, that was quite the rabbit trail.
Did we start going down there by talking about Tatar?
No, the Hugheses. The Hughes brothers.
The Hugheses. Okay, yes. So the Hughes brothers. Is Luke Hughes even going to play this coming year, though?
I don't think so. No.
I don't think so either.
I would not be surprised if him, actually, and an interesting note that we didn't talk about yet, but he would likely follow number one pick Nolan Power in going back to college. An interesting thing, I mean, we've only ever had one number one pick go back. That was Eric Johnson. And Nolan Powers decided I want to go back to college, not to Buffalo.
Shocking.
If you had to pick between going back to school, Nick, and moving to Buffalo, which one would you pick?
I would go to the NHL every single time.
No, you're not going to the NHL. You're going back to school, or you are moving to do your current job in the city of Buffalo.
Oh, to do my current job?
Yeah.
I'll go back to school.
Okay. You could either go to like U of T, or you could go to Buffalo and work from home in your current job.
I'd go back to school. Let's be honest, Carl. I'd fit right in with those kids. I'd be the coolest kid in the quad. They'd all want to hang out with me.
I imagine that in this scenario, since you said the quad, I assume you have your acoustic guitar that's right behind you on the wall in tow every step of the way.
Everywhere. I take it with me everywhere. I also wear a backwards hat, and I carry my backpack only over one shoulder.
Well, yeah, that's because you've got the guitar slung over the other.
Exactly.
You can't have both.
No hacky sack, though.
No hacky sack. See, I was imagining the hacky sack.
Wait, Carl, I'm going to go to class, okay?
Well, sure you are. Nolan Power, sure you're going to go to class. You're definitely not just going to do the bare minimum.
Hey, what's the stereotype? Pay the nerd to do the assignment for you?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm right here. I got you.
Yeah. But Carl, I've seen all the movies. In the end, the nerd is the one who steals my girlfriend. So
Actually, that reminds me of another movie I watched this week. Jumanji.
OG?
No, the first one with The Rock.
Oh, okay.
Which the movie literally starts with the nerd doing the football player's homework for him.
See? Stereotype.
There it is. So an interesting way to go to your team, because you had a team that you picked originally based on like on the ice moves, but deviated away. Is that right?
Yes. And I picked a different team.
Okay. Hey, we're just going to skim over the team making the poor off the ice moves.
The poor off the ice moves. Oh, the Blackhawks. Yeah. Yeah. So I had initially picked the Blackhawks because I felt that from an on the ice perspective, they made some moves that improved their team. And then you made a very good call that I hadn't thought of, that they're still wrapped up in this lawsuit. And it just didn't feel good saying the Chicago Blackhawks were doing anything good when they were being so slimy off the ice.
You know what? I think that's a good call to not celebrate them right now.
Yeah. So we're gonna move past the Blackhawks.
All right. So who did you pick?
The Florida Panthers.
Ooh.
And I picked the Panthers. I picked them because they're still going to be an exciting team this year. Like the moves they made them better, and they were good last year. So, I think that they're still going to be a fun team to watch this year. We didn't actually talk about the Devils playoff or not playoff, but the Panthers, they're going to be right up there. Yeah,
they are playoff contenders already. They should be there. I think Devils not playoff contenders. There's still a lot of big missing pieces, because we didn't talk also about Jonathan Bernier, an addition potentially. I mean, he's on the team, but I'm not sure that that's an addition.
Jonathan Bernier he's been great the last 2 years.
I'm well aware how you feel about Jonathan Bernier, and I strongly disagree with your Jonathan Bernier thoughts.
Carl, he played on an awful team And he had like a league average save percentage.
Yeah, but like he's played on really good teams and also had a league average save percentage.
Yeah, he was not good until he got to Detroit.
So like, what is it about Detroit that managed to like, did you fix him? Or was it just that he has no pressure on him and that's the only way that he can succeed?
I mean, it could be the pressure thing. It could just be that he rose to the moment. He had no defense in front to help him at all. He had no goal scoring support on the other end. He kept them in more games than they deserved to be in.
I can see that. Yeah.
He was good. But like there's only this one kind of piece of his career that he was good in, and that's his time in Detroit. So it'll be interesting now to see if that's just like, you know, the delicious cold cuts in the sandwich of his career, or if it'll continue going forward.
And I would argue that really it was just the last year in Detroit that he was particularly good. Like of the 3 years, his final year there was his best. And again, perhaps it's having a lot of time off, right? Red Wings didn't play in the bubble. They weren't in the playoffs. He had 18 months off of hockey.
Yeah.
He better, and then only had to play 23 starts this year. He better come in looking fresh and be really good for those games. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. I feel good about him at least through the first 10 games of the season, and then see where it goes from there.
Well, you know what? That's good. I think the Devils can make the playoffs simply on the first 10 games of the season. So you know what? October is going to be great in New Jersey. I've heard that.
Come on. They're not a playoff team. Let's talk about Florida.
All right.
Where do you want to start with the Panthers?
Well, what made you pick them?
So I think they did a couple of good things. Obviously, that's why I picked them. They went and got Sam Reinhart from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a good pickup for them.
Yeah, Sam Reinhart is one who I consistently feel like he was drafted really high, and I think now is underrated for what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also wonder how much just being on that Buffalo team, beats you down and affects you kind of mentally, and putting him in a new situation where he doesn't have all this pressure on him because they have players like Barkov and Huberdeau who are proven and who can go out and score the goals and carry the team. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He could be a really good support player on this team.
Well, and I mean, he's scored like 20 plus goals every year except for one in the league. Like that's really good. In Buffalo. So I mean, you bring that in. I think he can add a lot to this team of like first, second line, top six scoring for them.
For sure. Now, another Sam who they acquired at the deadline last year, who ended up being a really good acquisition for them last year, got a nice extension with them, Sam Bennett, 4 years at $4.4 million per year.
And if he's the Sam Bennett that we saw in the playoffs, a steal of a deal. A steal.
Yeah, but that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think this is going to be a steal of a deal? Because Sam Bennett always seems to... I feel like we say this every time we see him in the playoffs. If he's going to keep playing like that, he'll be great. And then he kind of doesn't.
Yeah, I think that this is... I think in the same way that you get Sam Reinhart out of a bad situation, the Flames never fully figured out how to use Sam Bennett in the best way possible. And it was a situation, I think, just getting him in there, getting a new set of eyes on him and playing with some different players, being used in some better ways, helped him out a ton going to Florida. So I think for the same reasons that you like Sam Reinhart in Florida, I like Sam Bennett in Florida.
I like him as part of the team. He was great for them last year, both in the regular season games that he played and in the playoffs. So
now here's the real question for you.
Okay.
So we've had the Hughes brothers, we've sorted out their Halloween costume, but what Sam-based costume are Mr. Reinhart and Mr. Bennett going to wear at Halloween this year?
Oh, Sam-based costume?
Like, salmon? Just go as fish?
Sam men. So they're like fish, but dressed as men.
Yeah.
Like or fish in business suits.
Or a salmon sandwich?
A sandwich?
A sandwich. You hear people say sandwich all the time.
A sandwich?
Yes, a sandwich. But some people pronounce it wrong.
A sandwich.
A sandwich.
So if they're a sandwich, then they're the buns, right? They're on either side.
I think they do the Jon Favreau grilled cheese scenario where they're both the open face grilled cheese. And then they see each other from across the room and they run at each other and like chest bump the grilled cheese together.
Oh, that's so funny. That's the costume, Carl.
We just have to make sure they've both seen Chef and that everyone else has seen the movie. So
I think that like the front of their costume, like the chest should have Velcro too.
So that you can throw, it's a game, right? You have to, it's pin the tail on the donkey, but it's throw the cheese on the Sam.
Yes. I love it.
This is
Carter Verhaeghe, their $1 million player last year, who way overperformed his deal, is now a $4 million player for the next 3 years.
Good. If he's what he was last year, in the same way that Sam Bennett, right? Like it's a steal of a deal if he does what he did last year. I feel like you look at Verhaeghe and Bennett, one of them will perform, and even that deal alone will be worth an okay amount of money. So
it's a good bet, I think. And, you know, they have the cap space. Like the next few years are pretty open for them. They have a lot of flexibility with this cap and with this roster to move stuff around if they need to.
That said, part of that flexibility comes from the fact that Alex Barkov is a free agent after this year.
Yeah. So this is where my pick for them as one of the better teams in the offseason has the potential to go sideways. Because all this talk about a Barkov extension keeps popping up every once in a while. And I worry about what that's going to look like for this cap.
The good news is they're done paying Roberto Luongo's contract after this year. The recapture penalty is done. So that's good. But I mean, they've got more veteran talent coming in anyways.
They've got more. Oh, yeah. Joe Thornton. 1 year league min. Why not?
How long is Joe Thornton going to play in the league?
I don't know, but my first thought when I saw that was my dad also retired in Florida.
Everyone's dad, including Mr. Thornton's kids, goes down there.
Exactly. It's a perfect retirement. It's warm all year round. You can go to the beach, walk around in flip-flops.
I mean, it's either that or Arizona, and Arizona doesn't even have a home, so Thornton wasn't going there.
Yeah, exactly. Last year with the Leafs was the first year that I was kind of like, oh, Thornton's not looking like Thornton anymore. I mean, he hasn't looked like prime Joe Thornton in a while, but last year was the first time I started to think like it's time probably for him to start thinking about, or for us to start asking, is this the last year?
He definitely lost a significant step.
Yeah, he definitely did. So it'll be interesting to see what Joel Quenneville does with him in Florida. I don't anticipate him getting a ton of big minutes. It's kind of a weird signing because it's not like this team is particularly young.
No, I agree.
Right? So it's not like they need that veteran presence in the locker room. It very much feels like them doing a nice thing and like, hey, we have a potential of going deep this year. You want your cup. This could work.
Yeah.
But I don't expect him, and I don't think the Panthers really expect him to be a huge contributor on the ice.
No, exactly. What do you think? So they lost Chris Driedger, Spencer Knight. You have seen me get unnecessarily excited about rookie young goalies before. Should I be excited about Spencer Knight?
I think so. Yeah, the dude made his NHL debut in the playoffs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he played really well.
Yeah.
Based on just that, I mean, look, small sample size, but based on that, I would be very excited for this player. So I think they made the right decision to let Driedger go. And, it's going to be Spencer Knight's time pretty soon. I think the bigger question is what the heck they're going to do with this Bobrovsky contract.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't have to deal with it and they can get around it, then I think they're in for a good situation here.
So yeah, go on.
No, that's it. I'm seeing maybe there's some news coming in right now. Maybe we'll put that in for next week's show. I just saw some more news come in on the Evander Kane legal situation. So
interesting.
We'll see what comes of that in the week. I'll make a note next week's show, talk about that. But before we wrap up, big event happening in Calgary this week that you wanted to make sure that people tuned into.
Yeah, the women's World Championships happening right now in Calgary. Canada's played 2 games so far. Canada has won 2 games so far. Friend of the show, Erin Ambrose, has had an amazing tournament so far. 2 goals, 1 assist. She's a +6 across 2 games.
Just straight beasting out there. Like, she's looked amazing.
Yes. And it's fun because the broadcast won't stop talking about her. So she was the player of the game last night. Well, I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, but Sunday night,
yeah, against
Russia, she was Canada's player of the game. All of Team Canada is looking like they're clicking, though. It was a little touch and go against Finland in the first game, I thought, but then against Russia, it was like a no contest. They outshot them something like 62-7.
Yeah, and so if you're looking for more games from Canada, Tuesday they're going to be playing Switzerland, but the big one to tune into Thursday, the 26th, is group stage against the US, and that's the matchup of the tournament. And I don't know how they're doing the grouping after this, of like after group stage, but I mean, this is the matchup. So
yeah, absolutely. So Tuesday, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I believe that's 4 p.m. local time.
4 p.m. local time. You bet.
And it's on TSN, so it's broadcast. So we'll watch. There's hockey on in August. And
that'll likely be that'll be for the division, right? That'll be for the Group A. If both teams beat Russia this week, that'll be for the division. So lots on the line there, and great hockey being played by the ladies, especially for Canada. So good on them. And if you're looking for more about the show, thanks for tuning in. You can find us at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can hit us with some movie reviews, suggestions, thoughts on our movies of the week, thoughts on our costumes for the Hughes brothers or Sam's, whichever you'd like. Let us know on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. You can send us an email at mail@thefourthlinepodcast.com. Make sure you put the number 4 in both of those. And we are on all podcast platforms: Google, Apple, Spotify, Full Press Radio, Full Press NHL website. Great source for more hockey content in this offseason. They're putting out lots of good stuff. So head on over there. Thank you for tuning in. Till next week.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. I can't think of a rhyme for this week's song. And I'm sure all our movie takes are very, very wrong.